A quick thanks to our series sponsors. We have Marvin and Wildan who are sponsoring the entire Road to Impact series. We would not be able to do this and the rest of the programs in this series without their support. So I really just want to thank them again for joining us. And we do have Marco Vincent on the phone with us today with Marvin, and he will say a few words about his company. So Marco, I'm going to unmute you. See, you're outside, it looks like.
Yes. Yeah, between meetings out here in Edina and making it work.
Wonderful. So are you able to see your slides?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I don't want to be the sales guy here cladding too much, but just a quick reminder that Marvin's been offering Living Building Challenge suitable solutions for since the beginning of the program with our all wood series. So of course, timber being a vital renewable resource, we're available to assist you for any of those LBC or material needs with our Ultimate Collection. We remain a family-owned business in our 120th year and our 4th generation out of Minnesota here. So you also know that when you specify the Ultimate Collection, it's coming from Warroad, Minnesota, just at the northern end. So especially for those here sourced locally, you have a regional partner as well. And we've been kind of the game-changing product in wood systems, but for the Modern Collection, which launched last year, that is a pultruded fiberglass means of providing that aluminum, storefront or aluminum and steel system aesthetic. So we're the first pultruded fiberglass manufacturer that can get to those large aluminum sizes based out of the US. And really, those sight lines as narrow as my iPhone. And of course, there's a lot of vinyl in the market, vinyl composites. This is made of 85% pultruded glass. So at least 85% of the product is silica sourced, and so much more renewable and sustainable than most vinyl composites on the marketplace. And then just wanted to mention, outside of a renewable and made of that same material of recycled aluminum, as well as that 85% glass composite, we have Skycode launching in November. So Skycode, as you see, it's a way of enhancing well-being and sort of reincorporating well-being into our space by allowing glass at the headers. This is one integrated bay window system. This and 2 other products are launching next year, which are focused on human-centered design, circadian rhythm. And so I'll leave it at that. I've been a lead AP and a well AP for some years. And just thank you to all the presenters here. Look forward to the content.
Wonderful. Thanks, Marco. And unfortunately, it looks like something must have come up with our sponsor representative from Wildan, but they are also sponsoring our program today. You can see that.
Brett, can you hear me? I'm on the line.
Oh, great. Yes, I'm sorry, Jeff. Yes.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
us. We've got Jeff from Wildan joining us as well. Sorry about that, Jeff.
No worries. Hey, thanks for having us. Great to be a sponsor of this event. As Brett mentioned, I'm the outreach director for Wildan. Many may not know that name. We are formerly Wildan, the White Group here locally. Wildan acquired us, I believe, back in March of last year. So White Group was well known in the Twin Cities, at least. It was a great acquisition for us. Wildan itself, founded in 1964 by 2 engineers. If anybody can guess what the first 2 names of those individuals are, will win a prize. Actually, just kidding. It was founded by Will and Dan, not very creative, but great engineers. Publicly traded, we represent or partner with over 90 utilities across the country, represent over 100 rebate programs nationwide. You can see the map. We've got a very large coverage area of where we offer our services. Some of those services include, as a few on the call may be familiar with, the new construction rebate program. We also do sustainability planning, direct install program implementation, energy savings performance contracting. We also get involved with smart cities and microgrids. Now, my group, the new construction rebate program, we are based here in Minnetonka. And what does that mean? That many of you may have heard it as design assistance. So we basically offer expertise to help you incorporate energy efficiency, energy efficiency strategies during the building design for new construction. Basically present you with options to consider and some of those rebate amounts that help make those decisions for energy efficiencies. And below, I won't go into it, but that's the process that we follow. Now, this program is no cost. It's sponsored by utilities across the country. In fact, we're in Minnesota, obviously, for those who know, but Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, North Dakota, and South Dakota are areas where we represent this free offering. And again, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the program, but just wanted to introduce Wildan, our new brand, and how we're going to market. And with that, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel today. So we'll get started. First, I've got Karen Hobel-Edwards. Karen is a consultant. She resides on United Soybean Board, also with KCI Public Affairs Associates and USB. Welcome, Karen. Next, Brett Oftenbrink. Excuse me if I butchered that, Brent, but Brett holds a PhD, is a Global Director of Industrial Applications Technology within Cargill's Bioindustrial Division. Welcome, Brent. Also on the panel, Dean DeValis. Dean is a founder and principal over at DJR Architecture. Also on the panel, we have Todd Matheson. Todd is Director of Market Development at Just Biofiber. And our moderator today is Harold Stanislawski. Harold is the Business Development Director at the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute. So on behalf of Wildan, Marvin, USGBC, I'd like to thank all of our speakers for being here today. And with that, I will hand it over to Harold to get things started. Thank you.
Hello, this is Harold Stanislawski with AURI. I want to welcome the panel we have today, and we'll get started. But before we do, in your chat box, we want to ask if you are familiar with bio-based products in construction. So if you'd like to do that, just put it in the chat box, and we will move forward. So again, a welcome to all the participants. So if you want to take care of that, that'd be great, and we'll come back to that later on in the program. The course description for today is the session is designed to give an understanding how sustainable and renewable construction materials in the marketplace are used, and new products will also be introduced today. We have some learning objectives that we need to talk about. And objective 1 is upon completion, the participants will possess broad category knowledge about sustainable, renewable, and bio-based building materials. And objective 2 is upon completion, participants will have knowledge of specific opportunities to utilize sustainable, renewable, and bio-based building materials. And objective 3, upon completion, the participants will understand the benefits of renewable and bio-based building materials to customers. And then objective 4, upon completion, the participants will understand the improving environment, sustainable, renewable, and bio-based building materials. So that's what we will be going through today. Also, again, I work in business development with the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, and we do value-added ag work with commodities, co-products, renewable energy, food, and bio-based materials. So Jeff just introduced the panel, but we're going to have Karen Hobel-Edwards representing the United Soybean Board and KCE Public Affairs Associates. Brent Offenbrink again with Cargill, a Global Director of Industrial Applications Technology within Cargill. Todd Matheson, a Director of Market Development with Just Biofibers. And then Dean DeValis, architect with with his architecture firm. So they are on the panel today. So with that, Brent, I will turn it over to you about introducing Cargill's bioindustrial.
Thanks, Harold. And as Jeff and Harold indicated, my name is Brent Oftenbrink. I'm the Director of Research or Industrial Applications Technology for the Bioindustrial Division here in Cargill. I've been in this role for about 20 years, so I've led research and development into a number of different market areas and products serving those market areas across a wide variety of application areas. Today I'll show you just a slice, or talk about a slice of these developments that we've seen, and also show you a website where if you're interested, then you can look at more of our bioindustrial success stories. Slide, please. So at Cargill, we've recognized for quite some time that there's a growing demand for sustainability and also an opportunity to create new products from that. So today, it's not really a special request or a new invention, but it's really the status quo. Customers are demanding sustainability and safer products. Next slide, click. And that's due to a couple reasons, several reasons, in fact. But first of all, today's consumer it has a much more heightened awareness towards the impact of industrial chemicals and chemicals that are exposed to in everyday life on their individual health. And because of that, there's a demand for more renewable, more natural, more biodegradable products, in fact, safer products that can fill the needs that they have in their everyday lives. In addition, there's regulatory pressure by the government to eliminate unsafe and toxic products from the marketplace. And also, there's an increasing viability of a number of bio-based alternatives. So research like my group has done and many others in academia and other industries have created solutions and chemistries that are safer and available to replace existing chemistries that are either petro-based or unsafe. And so all this is leading to a great opportunity for more sustainable chemistry. Next slide, please. So at Cargill, most people probably wouldn't recognize us as an industrial chemical company. Most people think of us as a food company, and in fact, they would be right. Our primary business enterprise is taking food products out of the area of production and then putting them into commerce. But at the same time, we realize that there's an opportunity to use some of these chemicals that are safe enough to eat to make chemicals that can replace those that are made by industrial petro products at the same time. And so in our bioindustrial group, we do just that. Next slide. And we've been doing it not only for a couple years, but we've been doing it for nearly 4 decades. And so we have a wide variety of different replacements that we can have that are suitable as replacements for petroleum chemistry. Next slide. And my group has done exactly that. We're doing research and development and invention every single day, and we've got solutions across a variety of different market areas, from lubricants, paints and coatings, polyurethane foams, waxes, dielectric transformer oils are all products that we've invented and developed here in our group. And today I'm going to talk about 2. So next slide. There are 4 areas we talked about. I'm going to focus it today on 2, road construction and binders and adhesives. I'll tell you a little bit about what we've got in those 2 areas. Next slide. So in asphalt, as you might know, an asphalt road is made up of a lot of gravel particles that are glued together by the bottom of a barrel of petroleum oil called asphalt, or actually asphalt cement. This mixture then is spread down our road and then compacted to provide the asphalt surface. Over time, the road is exposed to sunlight, UV light, and temperature extremes, high temperature, low temperature. And so asphalt, like any other product, has a bit of a limited life. Before it cracks, before it has potholes, before it ravels, before it just becomes unsuitable to be used as a road. And at that time, the road is kind of peeled up, it's ground up, and the result is you see these huge stacks of old asphalt that are piled up at asphalt manufacturers and state DOTs. Those piles are called RAP, recycled asphalt pavement, and asphalt manufacturers would like to reutilize those, but because the effects of sunlight on that asphalt, the coating or the cement that's meant to be flexible is hard and brittle. And so you can only reutilize a small amount in the incorporation of a new road. And so that amount is limited to maybe 10 to 15%. Well, we discovered a modified vegetable oil derivative that we made that you can spray on this recycled asphalt pavement and soften and replenish the performance of that aggregate so they can utilize much more in recycling to make a new road. And we've shown that you can routinely use up to 45 to 70% of recycled asphalt pavement instead of fresh aggregate in the manufacture of a new road. And we've even done demonstrations of up to 100% in parking lots and things like that. And so our invention allows the recycling of old asphalt pavement and the utilization into new roads to make a road that not only meets the performance characteristics that are required, but is improved over the performance of virgin asphalt. And so we think that's a real benefit in the asphalt recyclers or the asphalt manufacturer's toolbox. We've also developed a warm mix additive, which allows you to reduce the temperature at which you compact the asphalt when it's laid down on the road. And so we've been able to show that you can compact a road at 250 to 270 degrees Fahrenheit instead of the normal 330 or so degrees Fahrenheit. And what that does is it dramatically reduces the vapors that the construction workers are exposed to. And not only that, it enhances or widens the asphalt manufacturer's radius of accessibility because they can take the asphalt further and still be able to compact it efficiently. So these two are one of several different advances that we made in the asphalt and road construction space. Next slide. We made a couple different advances in adhesives. Phenol and adhesives, especially in interior adhesives, formaldehyde is a real problem because small amounts of it that are used in adhesive then evaporates and goes into the interior airspace, and interior air quality is a real problem. And formaldehyde is a particular problem because of its adverse impacts on people's health. And it's also been labeled as recently as a carcinogen, right? Unfortunately, a lot of adhesives utilize formaldehyde because it's cheap, ubiquitous, and very reactive. It makes a very effective adhesive. But in two areas, we've been able to develop effective adhesives that will replace formaldehyde-based adhesives. And the first one is in wood. And so in wood, we've been able to develop with another company called Solenis, a soy-based, protein-based adhesive that is cross-linked with their additive that can be utilized to make interior plywood. And this is effective enough that it's utilized in nearly 50% of the interior plywood manufactured in North America today. And the other area is fiberglass and insulation. Fiberglass is a number of fiberglass fibers that need to be glued together to enhance their ability to rebound in the cavities they're meant to fill to provide insulation. When insulation is made, it's sprayed into a thick mat. The mat is then compressed and rolled up and then shipped to the distribution points. When it gets to the construction site, then it needs to be unrolled and then re-expand to fill the cavity. And if there's not an adhesive on the fiberglass, it won't re-expand. We developed one to replace formaldehyde that's based on a modified starch derivative and a sugar cross-linker. And this adhesive provides all the performance characteristics required of the insulation. It's commonly used by a number of the major manufacturers. We developed it in concert with one of our major customers, Owens Corning, and it's widely available in the marketplace today. And so, next slide, please. So those are two of many of the sustainable chemistries that we've been able to develop here. I invite you to go to our website, www.cargill.com/bioindustrial, and look at, chemistries that we have across a wide variety of application areas that I mentioned, lubricants, polyurethane foams, waxes, paints, inks, and coatings, and dielectric fluids. If you have any questions, get back in touch with me, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. And for those who might have a question for Brent, please use the chat box and we will address your questions during the panel discussion. So thank you again, Brent, for your presentation. We got a poll question now, and the question is, what is the primary criteria that would prompt you or your client to build using green technology? A, acquisition cost that is the same or lower. B, building performance, health, safety, comfort, and convenience. C, lower long-term operating costs. D, based on principal alone. Or E, higher resale value. Go ahead and answer that poll question now. We're going to take about 10 seconds or so to get that logged in. Choose A, B, C, D, or E. Okay, the poll has ended, so we will continue. I want to again introduce Todd Matheson with Just Biofiber to talk about structural solutions in carbon negative building systems. Go ahead, Todd.
Okay, thanks, Harold. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you fine.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to start just with a real quick primer on hemp because I will be talking about a hemp-based building solution. I just think it's important for people to understand this plant. First of all, hemp is actually a very ancient crop. It's been around for thousands of years. The entire hemp plant is actually useful to man. We can use the seed, we can use the fiber, we can use the hurd, which is the woody core. We can actually use the leaves to feed to animals. It is also a highly sustainable and desirable rotation crop. And there is mounting evidence that and studies around hemp having the ability to phytoremediate, which means to clean up contaminated soils. We are working with what's called hempcrete. Hempcrete takes the woody core of the plant or the hurd and combines it with a lime binder. And I'm going to get into that more a little bit later on, but this is a technology that dates back hundreds, even thousands of years. A great example of that, there's a temple in India called the Kailasa Temple, which is something like 1,500 years old and used hemp technology. Don't get too far ahead of me there, Harold. Let's see, traditionally, hempcrete was actually used as a filler and was packed around a building structure. Okay, next slide, Harold. Now you can go.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so things that I'd like to highlight about the actual product itself. There are many people out there doing absolutely beautiful work in the traditional way with hempcrete, packing it into forms around building structure. We've actually taken that a step further to create a modular building block system for fast, flexible construction. This product is structural, load-bearing, and weather-resistant. It reduces building energy requirements, meaning heating and cooling, and it is also CO2 sequestering. Each block that you see there will sequester 6 kilograms of CO2, and that lime binder continually absorbs CO2 over its lifetime. It is non-toxic and permeable, so for a very healthy environment. It creates, once it's in place, a monolithic structure, and its high alkalinity protects it from mold and insects. Next slide, please. A couple things to highlight here are the integrated internal frame, which is what gives this block its structural integrity. And by the way, that frame can actually be made from biocomposites. So it can actually come from hemp or soy or flaxseed, wherever we can get our oil. It creates a single modular component to create the entire wall assembly. And then we combine that with adhesives, both interior and exterior, and create a very strong and durable monolithic structure. Next slide, Harold. So just kind of wanted to come back to the idea of hempcrete. We take hemp hurd, which on the lower right of your screen is that is actual hemp hurd that's been processed down. We combine that with lime binder and water. We form that into a mold around that structural frame, and then we send it into the room to be cured. And it sits there and absorbs a bunch of CO2 while it cures. Next slide, Harold. So in terms of the value proposition, just some things that we want to cover. Obviously, this needs to be cost effective, and so at scale, this will be a very inexpensive construction method. Our 32 to 40 effective insulation value, so operating costs of homes and buildings goes down. Safety fire rating of 2 hours. This is a very safe product. It does not like to burn. And that bottom bullet point there we feel is very important. We think in terms of longevity over 7 generations. So thinking about many generations down the line. Next slide, please. Some other interesting performance factors. The sound insulation is exceptional. We rate a 0.7 NRC. And also, this product works without any additional vapor barriers, so it is breathable. And then we have buildings that are full of healthy air instead of mold and other toxins. Next slide, please. Just one structural item I want to point out. The compressive strength is excellent on this at 75 MPa. So for those of you who know what that means, this is a very impressive structural product, a great weight-bearing medium. Next slide, please. This slide, I mostly just want to point out the versatility of this product. The number of applications are pretty much unlimited. We can build with this product 8 stories high, but it can also be built into a steel frame, like in terms of demising walls or firewalls, and they've even listed barrier walls there. So lots of interesting places that this product can go. Next slide, please. You will see, so this pricing is a little bit outdated, but it does show kind of the comparison. Our goal and where we're headed with this is that at scale we will be able to compete with wood frame construction, which means we can outcompete just about anything else. Next slide, please. So this slide, this is the first building that actually went up. This was a gentleman in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. He wanted the first ever building built out of this product. So he got it. And in return for that, he was willing to fill his brand new house full of sensors where we've gathered tons of data on how this product performs. So you can actually look this up online if you just search harmless home or harmless house in BC, so British Columbia. You'll find a lot of information on this. So next slide, please, Harold. So I just encourage you to, if you have interest, go to our website. I believe somewhere, I think my contact information's in there as well, but either way, please go find out about this because these things grow because people get interested and they start finding ways to utilize them. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd, for that great presentation. Together we can reduce dependence on petroleum. Together we can improve air quality for employees, and together we can reduce carbon emissions. So, Karen, you want to start?
Thank you for this opportunity. And I'm noting that your polling results show that people are particularly concerned about building performance. And I think the definition of success of what I want to talk about today is, really there's no sustainability achieved if people don't actually use products. And we know that they have to be cost competitive, they have to be readily available, and importantly, they do have to perform. So what I hope to do today in my remarks is to quickly move through some examples of how products are currently available and how they're bringing sustainability benefits to different users. So I'm trying to advance my slide. So just so you know, the United Soybean Board represents the 515,000 U.S. soybean growers who live in those states. And collectively, they grow about 121 million metric tons of soybeans. And those are primarily grown for human food or livestock feed. So what I'm talking about today is not competing with food supplies. It is because companies like Cargill are processing that, and there's an abundance of oftentimes soybean oil in particular that is available for the use of these products. And the development of these products really go back to Dr. George Washington Carver and pioneering work by Henry Ford, who had a vision of actually growing a car. And even today, Ford has an amazing group of engineers who are continuing to work with this. And the partners are the soybean growers are very pleased to collaborate with companies to do the R&D on these products and make them more available to all of us to use. And some of you may say, well, how does what happens on the farm translate into the sustainability of products? And I just want to share this because every teaspoon of healthy soil actually contains more microorganisms than there are people on the planet today. And so if you think about the power of resilience and regeneration, U.S. farmers are spending an enormous amount of investment on soil. And we've done a lot of work in New York, and I can't get my slide to, So because New York is so conscious of sustainability and carbon intensity and reduction, they've been an amazing user of biodiesel and as well as bioheat in their buildings. So we've worked with a lot of end users in New York City, and to try to help them connect to sustainability, we tried to turn it into a little fun. This is one of our New York soybean growers and his son and grandchildren. We asked our New York contacts, which sports teams do you most hate? They, no surprise, chose the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. So you'll see some of those shirts on there, because if you have healthy soil, Mr. Lott has not tilled that soil for over 2 decades as part of his sustainability program. So he and the family planted those shirts in the soil. And if you have healthy soil, what you'll see in the spring is that's his granddaughter, Grace, showing that those microbes are really hard at work. And that leads to productivity. But also just something to remember, if I can get it to advance. Plants are actually nature's way of capturing solar energy, and soybeans are grown year after year in harnessing that energy. But moving on to the actual products that are being used, we actually have a video that if you look in the chat box after today's presentation, I hope you'll check it out. The Missouri Soybean Association built their new Innovation and Education Center, and they actually left a lot of the bio-based products exposed. We have that video to tell that story with their architects, sharing how that process introduced them. And so they left exposed actually this wall panel that is heat lock soy insulation made by Demilec, which is now owned by Huntsman Building Solutions. That is widely used in multiple countries, actually. And this is Sherwin-Williams, their paints. They actually won the EPA Green Chemistry Award several years ago. And carpet. This is actually a Cargill polyol customer based in Dalton, Georgia, that has been a pioneer in using soybean oil to displace petroleum in the back of their products. And one of their products is doormats. And actually, I know all of you at USGBC are probably aware of the role of doormats for helping with indoor air quality. And we're really glad that the American Lung Association is also interested in those doormats because what you bring into the building is more important than ever with COVID. We're more focused on that. And I should share that we at the United Soybean Board actually worked with the Pentagon in 2010. They have saved money. Think about all of the boots that come across the doorways of the Pentagon. That's they have these doormats and have been using them, frankly, since 2010 and saving money through that process. Similarly, Cargill, another polyol customer, the Sinlon company, that's the Tesla space rocket launch where a lot of high traffic you would kill the grass, or you would just spend a fortune putting pesticides down. So they've put the soy-backed grass down there, so people who watch the rocket launches, and they're not alone. That product's going down on rooftops and a lot of other locations. And I'm trying to, and that is Denver Airport. Another example of the soybeck grass going down in places where you couldn't maintain. A lot of pet dog facilities are using it. Harold, you may have to help me. There we go. And similarly, we really appreciate the American Lung Association introducing USB to work with the city of Moline on a variety of bio-based uses, not only for their fleet, but we're having conversations about road materials, and that's some of our folks. And if you think about Moline, they sit right on the water. So this is a city where their city leaders and the Public Works Department and others are very aware that what products they use could end up into the water supply. And we've experienced that with multiple communities that we've worked with, a lot of concern about the actual products in the water supply too, not just the air. Harold, can you help me? There we go. And also just another way that the soybean growers, we've worked with the city of New York. That's the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, with several soybean growers who are celebrating the fact that the Port Authority has used a wide array of bio-based products in their fleet, and these are the Goodyear tires that won the International Sustainability Award 2 years ago. It's just another example of high performance. The port put those on all their law enforcement vehicles. Every bridge and tunnel in the New York area is protected with law enforcement vehicles by the Port Authority. So they really treasure performance for those vehicles. And here's another example of a bio-based material that is performing well. They've gone into full implementation with those tires. And similarly, District of Columbia Water Authority, we're cleaning supplies. So there's a variety of options inside a building along with the construction. And finally, I just want to conclude with why would I show a picture of my child? Because it gets personal when you think about USGBC talking about health in particular. Over the years, I've really tried to walk the talk and using cleaning supplies as well as construction materials in the renovations in our home. I have had no less than 5 building contractors tell me that there is no such thing as formaldehyde in plywood. And the only way that I got the cabinets that you see behind my daughter in our latest bathroom renovation was by me finally getting so fed up that I told the contractor that if you want my business, you will give me Columbia Forest Products cabinets, because I happen to know that they have no added formaldehyde. And so my concluding remark to all of you is we know that this is sometimes a challenge to get these products into your projects, and we want to work with you and help get that done. So thank you for your time today, and I'll look forward to more conversation.
Thank you, Karen, for that wonderful presentation. Very, very interesting. We want to now move into Dean DeValis with Master in Architecture and Urban Design. Dean, take it away.
Thank you very much, and everyone appreciate being here. I don't know about the rest of you, I sort of feel like I'm a participant in the Democrat National Convention, and Harold's our main speaker for the day on this process. But one thing I'd like to do this afternoon is modular buildings. It is something that I'm principal of DJ Architecture. It's a 50-person firm located in Minneapolis. And it's something we've been pursuing for many years in terms of trying to create more affordable and sustainable housing. The industry's been trying to move that through panelization and other methodologies, and finally found a way of actually starting to deliver projects that are sustainable, starting to deliver projects that are less expensive, and starting to deliver projects that start to aggregate sustainable materials in the process on this. And the idea is that we can take all those materials in a common warehouse, produce them and install them, and so the basic building blocks, the basic units are entirely sustainable, as opposed, if you think of building traditionally, each building is its own adventure. The idea is we can aggregate it and install the materials that were previously invested from the other speakers. Harold, next slide, please. So this is one of our modular projects under construction in Minneapolis. That's called Mod 42. It's a NOAA, which means a naturally occurring affordable projects, or actually building some of these and starting to put this together. But modular construction is not new. It's not an invention. It's been around in the 40s. Europe led it very quickly, and Japan followed it on its heels on this. But again, what I mentioned before is that because I'm building all the modulars in a factory, in a closed environment, the units entirely, I have an ability to control the methodology, aggregate the materials, work it in, and then repeat it unit after unit after unit. So the sustainability carries beyond individual buildings and carries on to multiple buildings. So it really can have a very big impact along with the affordability that occurs with it. So this slide here shows actually the foundation system Mod 42 being ready to accept the units. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks, Phil. So its speed is another big savings because we can increase pace of construction up to 50% because our foundation goes in at the same time the module is being built. So it shortens the time on site. And as you know, construction can be a very energy consuming process, especially winter conditions. There's an efficiency to it. The plants I'm working with, the plants that develop Mod 42 rise module, we have computerized socket and lumber so that there's no waste. So when these units are put together, everything's pre-cut. So the modulars are put together in a very simple presentation methodology. So there's minimal loss over, and the 5% number is real true because now we're actually building modules, and that second picture is the actual plant and testing what's occurring here. So in the right environment, we can get waste out of the system by 20%, which really is a big deal that goes across a large geographic area. Next slide, please. So the other thing that occurs is a financial, because to get sustainability, if financial is not aligned with it, it becomes more difficult for people to use it and to actually adopt into the system. So what we're talking about here is incremental revenue and time savings. And if you can build faster, you can reduce cost. By reducing cost, you increase profitability. By increasing profitability, the rents and costs of housing become less. So now we start creating what I call naturally occurring affordable housing, meaning it doesn't need subsidy to get to a 60% adjusted median income, which is considered the benchmark for affordability. So now we have a methodology where we're creating a state of sustainability, but also an affordability that really works across the whole system that really is helpful. Again, this is a picture of Mod 42 foundation going in. Next slide, please. On that process. And again, I don't want to overbreak the financial situation, but I'll say the slide on the left is actually our project and construction in the modular factory, and then the assembly. But again, if you just look at it, 20% IR, how it increases on the financial side, which then decreases the cost of rent that needs to be produced. And then if we combine with the affordable materials that the previous three speakers talked about, you really now have a win-win, where you have energy efficiency, sustainability, speed of construction, and affordability that comes with the process. Next slide, please. So again, this just shows the speed. It's a little different methodology in modular. I had to relearn how I do architecture to make this work, because you have to really do all your intensive planning up front. You basically have to get everything incorporated before you start. Unlike a normal building process where you sort of work it as you build, you have to be exact in the front, but by being exact in the front, allows these efficiencies and energies to occur, and then allows that time savings process. So it's a process where you integrate in the beginning, make your decision in the beginning, and then go into production to put the project together. But the results are a faster, less expensive, safer, higher quality project, which is a big deal because, again, building without the effects of weather just leads to a much more efficient, clean, more stable, more efficient building. Next slide, please. So this is a little modular that, and this is where Harold's going to really shine. It's a little video, and this is an actual project that is built. It just sort of shows how it comes together on the process on that. So, and it's one, this is located in South Minneapolis on 42nd Street, right off Hiawatha Avenue. And it was our first modular, foundations dug, put together. The stem walls are expressed and units are delivered to the site. As you see here, they're split together. The interiors are 100% done, so no work is done in the units at all. Then they're stacked in place, as you see in this process. And then the exterior finishes are put on, parapet, the exterior materials, architecture, you can do a whole variety of things. And then the final project, and people occupy. So it's very quick. In this project, we were able to deliver, we are delivering affordable units in 6 months. And that based on the 60% process. So that's the basis on that video. So I'm going to just show some project examples quickly. The Mod 42 you just saw, this is one that starts construction in this winter. It's a 7-story modular building in St. Paul. Again, another project is affordable. It's a 7-story project, so we can scale up with this. This also has mechanized parking, so the whole garage is a mechanized system. So basically, a guy can get 8 cars, or normally I could get 3. So using that methodology, along with the saving of parking, along with the modular systems, I'm able to deliver again something that's falling at 67% AMI on process. And you can see the data on this project. Next slide, please. Again, the plans and the mechanized parking system, how it works, set up. We can do modulars that are odd shaped, as you notice on the right end of the building, so there's flexibility with that. Next slide, please. Again, this is when we rent Mod 42. Again, this is what I call a NOAA, natural occurring affordable housing, because we don't need to have subsidy to make it happen. On that basis, a 30-unit project fit on a tight urban site that is under construction right now. Next slide, please. And again, Mod 42, how the plans are put together. You can each slice through that thing is a full modular. So basically, when we deliver, it's 2 units and a quarter. That's how it's put together. Next slide, please. This is one we're going in St. Michael as part of a whole master plan that's all going to be modular housing. So the idea that we're delivering affordability to suburban locations too. And again, the architecture, we can wrap it in whatever style we want. So it doesn't have to be all the same. So you have great flexibility in that. Next slide, please. And again, shows part of a master plan, which is a combination of apartments, seniors, and townhouses. So we can work this across a variety of housing types. This is scheduled for spring construction. Next slide, please. And again, this is Lexington, which is a larger project. This is 272 units. This is St. Paul as part of the Wilder site. Again, another NOAA, natural occurring affordable project as a mixed use. Next slide. And then you can see the plan. The modular units, in this case, it's an S-shaped building. And again, the idea of incorporating the sustainable materials in these modulars and then multiplying it as we go through. Next slide, please. And again, Stinson Apartments, another small one. In the process, same idea. This case, we did surface parking. So again, we can achieve sustainability along with affordability, along with the rapid delivery of housing, because as we all know, there's a housing crisis, there's a shortage. And this methodology doing is actually getting both on the equity side and the sustainability side and really starting to get a lot of housing out there in the market. Next slide. That's the plans. You sort of see how the monitors go together. And I think that is my final slide. Harold, next slide, please. Yep, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys listening on that, and thanks for bearing through my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Just a tremendous job there with your presentation. We're going to get in now to the panel discussion about sustainable materials and products. And this discussion will cover sustainable materials and renewable materials in the marketplace, how sustainable and renewable materials can best be used, how sustainable and renewable materials fit into building design, and then information related to economics, health, and well-being, and overall purpose in building design. So to start off this discussion, and I would open it up, maybe you, Karen, first. What are the cost benefits with these materials to address the integrity and sustainability and all of the things that the consumers care about?
Great question, Harold. You know, one of the things that I think we could have an entire session on is how do you assess the life cycle costs of a product? You know, so Cargill, Brent, feel free to jump in here. You know, the soybean growers have been investing in improving their sustainability portfolio on the farm. They've done research that then cradle to gate research that then gets passed on to the manufacturers. So when looking at a product, you know, frankly, you do have to look at product by product and manufacturer by manufacturer because the products are different. And you want to be discerning because people can put a non-sustainable material in with a sustainable plant-based material. So, you know, and one of the concerns out there is having bio-based content be transparent. You know, a company putting a drop in should not get as much credit as a company that is pushing the margins while still giving performance. And so that's one of the benefits of the USDA BioPreferred program. They do have a labeling system, and companies are putting percentages of bio-based on there.
Dean, maybe a comment from you on this because cost and benefits with all the materials, and then maybe how do you go about sourcing your sustainable materials that are important to your clients?
So sustainability is the education of the clients is increasing rapidly. That's been occurring in the industry quite quickly. But then the other side of the equation is the affordability. So those have been both the process. The best way we've been sourcing is seminars like this. Lunch and Learns, that methodology has really been helpful getting the word out because there's been an explosion of sustainable materials. I mean, just today getting that direction. So it's really staying aware and staying within the system, seminars, knowledge, product data, and so forth on that. And it's been a big methodology. And then trial and error. We look at we put them in, we install them, we see how they perform. I mean, the beauty of the modulars that we're working on is I can trial and error on a modular unit within a controlled environment and build one mod, test drive the materials, how they work, installation time, efficiency, test for performance and all that, because basically I'm building a prototype of a housing unit. So I have fortunately it'll be of a on-site lab basically, and then from there, if the materials look are successful, then they get the baseline and all the units are being produced. So then multiplier effect of sustainability as we roll through all the various units, and the product just becomes embedded into the base building modulars, and then becomes has a lot more global or regional effect than individual building at a time.
Well, thank you, Dean. Brent, with Cargill, a real and true leader in sustainable materials and renewable materials. You know, this product you have for parking lots and for the pavements, which all of these buildings generally have, Tell us a little bit more about the efficacy of that and the way it works and why it's a good fit.
Yeah. So the rejuvenator, when asphalt is peeled up, the brittleness of the asphalt occurs because oxidation from UV light just destroys molecules that are responsible for the flexibility that an asphalt pavement requires to stay together. The material that we made goes into the asphalt, replenishes the chemicals that have been oxidized and taken out, and makes that asphalt then suitable for reuse. And you look at the cost of that, the savings comes from the fact that they don't need to source expensive aggregate. They can source aggregate that is basically recycled and used or given away. And if you plan the project appropriately, you could actually conceive of kind of doing that on site, with the right equipment, and many years in the future. For example, we think about going down a road, having a specialized piece of equipment that would peel it up, grind it, size it, spray the rejuvenator on it, and then lay the road back down all in a single cycle. And so these things become possible when you've kind of broken down some of the barriers to the replenishment of the asphalt. Another point I'd like to make up, kind of a general point, is in doing this for 20 years, we found that the performance aspect is really important. Customers don't necessarily really want to pay for green. They need to pay for a value. And so we compete very heavily against petroleum products. And so cost in use is very important. It needs to provide a value that the customers recognize. And once you provide that value, the sustainability, green, and the biodegradability of products that you make really is an added benefit that drives them into the purchase. But performance overall is really what we're found. If you're entering into a competition for a product, and you have something that you're trying to sell on green, but is really doesn't have the performance characteristics, you're going to have limited success in its commercial success.
Well, thank you, Brent. And I know one thing: when you drive into a brand new building or a building that's been up that's historical in nature, and you have a nice driveway and a beautiful bike trail, it makes the whole property look a lot better. So congratulations to Cargill for a great product there in the marketplace. I want to kind of turn it over to Todd Matheson a bit, because hemp just became legal in the United States to grow in December of 2018. And here's Todd with a product that looks to be pretty phenomenal. And Todd, I just wondered if you just elaborate on kind of what you're seeing in the marketplace from the consumers as you introduce this into the United States.
Yeah, you bet. It's funny you mentioned that. I was just thinking this morning how my mother was about 7 years old when hemp was outlawed, and her grandchildren are getting married when hemp's come back into acceptability. And so there's 2 generations lost, and people don't understand this plant and what it can do. The thing that's going to be tricky for hemp and for this particular technology is we need to be able to build the value chains for the entire plant. And so that means for the seed, it means for the fiber, it's for the herd. I didn't get to pull off my usual shtick today. I'm actually wearing a hemp shirt, and so was kind of bummed I didn't get to be on the video because I look really nice today. But this idea of being able to have people buy into hemp products and understand what they mean and understand why they're meaningful and good, that's going to take some time because we need a lot of hemp growing to be able to do this at scale. And so that's probably the biggest single obstacle to us. We find a lot of acceptance to the product, a lot of excitement when we go out and show the block and how it can perform. A lot of people want a piece of it, and we're just trying to figure out how we can make that whole value chain work, because we actually take the very bottom of the value chain for our products. We've got to get the fiber and everything else taken care of above that.
Well, thank you, Todd. And Dean, if you've listened to that, you got to start using this hempcrete in your building construction there down in the Twin Cities. It'll be cool to see you. And we'll paint it with Nova products, and then Karen will come in and do all the rest, and then we'll have just a fantastic thing.
So, nice
say Harold, really I want
materials. They really bring a lot of things into this, so that's the beauty of this. We can have a big impact by working all these projects into the individual modules and projects, so that's why this has been very helpful today. Thank you.
Say, Harold, we did have a couple questions from the audience. I was wondering if it'd be okay if I jumped in and asked.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I think that this question is probably most specific to Dean, but the question is what listings you use for reference when searching for sustainable products. I imagine that this is in reference to some of your design projects.
Yep, so before COVID, we would have lunch and learns in the office 2 to 3 a week, because our firm's a 50-person firm, and so to get the word out, we would actually bring in all the various representative companies and so forth that are more than willing and educate people on the product and so forth. This was an outstanding methodology to get the word across everybody, so it wasn't just me making decisions, but all the other 49 people here at the company. So that was our former methodology. Now we've become more internet-based, and because everyone's working from home, we now do lunch and learns and town halls every Friday, in which we present materials to people, access, where to go, how to look, because the big thing about we have to really keep our own internal continuing education going within the firm. So now we're doing it sort of basically like a seminar, this kind of methodology to present the products and stuff as they come into the firm on that basis. So I don't know if that gives the exact answer, but that's really been our methodology, getting the word out. Fortunately, our firm's visible enough that a lot of manufacturer suppliers are coming to us, and we sort through them, find the best, and present it back to the firm in these lunch and learns processes to go through it.
Yeah, that's great. I know that there's, lunch and learns are a very traditional, I shouldn't say traditional necessarily, but they're a pretty typical way that a lot of firms learn about new products and some of the innovative things that are happening in the materials world. I know that there's also a lot of different databases, and I can pull some of those and send those as part of the resources in our follow-up email.
And especially the ones that give you continued education. Then it's like you get a double. You learn something and it satisfies your registration requirements.
Yeah, we are always here for that. Did have one more question that came through the chat. I think that this one's kind of for anyone or for everyone who'd like to answer, but when thinking about how bio-based products stack up in durability and longevity, what does that look like in comparison to non-bio-based or petroleum-based products? Do we see the same sort of longevity and durability in these products?
Yeah, go ahead, Harold, and someone else answer.
Yeah, Brent, from a Cargill perspective, what would be your thought on that?
Yeah, so I got to maybe walk through a couple of examples, but for example, our petroleum, the asphalt additives, they enhance the life of conventional asphalt roads. So we believe that it's better than the incumbent. When you think about the polyurethane foams from the polyols, there's really no difference in the longevity or life. In our wax business, where you're making waxes from candles, life isn't so much of an issue, but the performance of the candle is superior in terms of its ability to throw fragrance, which is one of the main reasons that people make and sell candles. When you go across lubricants, in hydraulic fluids, our lifetime is completely adequate and comparable. In areas where lifetime does become an issue due to things like hydraulics and stuff, you find that we don't compete. And so when you take it on a case by case basis, again, this is one of the things about performance. And life is one of the characteristics of the questions that you have to answer in terms of performance. If they're competitive and they provide the value, then the customers will buy them and will see that value. If they're not, it's a liability, and then that either you need to solve it, or that's a marketplace where you have to not compete. So that's maybe kind of a brushing a lot of different areas that we compete in, but hopefully it'll give the person who asked the question somewhat of an answer.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dean.
The one thing, in the beginning, there was a cost differential, even though the products probably had full quality. What's happening is that differential's been dropping down. And so we've been able to have more accessibility to them, because before they could premium to have environmental or bio-based products. That's been evening out, which has been a big removal of a roadblock that made a lot of our clients resistant to it. And that's probably been the biggest change we've seen. The quality was there, but the cost differential was really the biggest impediment. That's been disappearing.
I know, Brent, we're getting close to getting out of time here, but we do have a chat question, and that is, are you now interested in learning more about bio-based solutions in construction based on the fine presenters we had today? And, please put your response into the chat box. But, the future is bright here. A less carbon footprint with sustainable building materials is a very noble goal. Creating jobs is a wonderful spin-off of all of this activity. And then when we can make products from agriculture in your backyard, that helps the rural areas. It helps the entire nation and state, so that's good. And one of the things we maybe didn't talk about enough, but all of this contributes to LEED credits towards certification. And Dean, maybe at a future date and time, that could be something could be further discussed, because that is also a noble goal and important. But we have a poll question here. What bio-based product are you most likely to incorporate into your operation in the coming year? A, building materials, B, interior construction, C, surface rejuvenants, or D, cleaning supplies?
And that poll is open, and it'll get closed shortly, so feel free to enter your answer in. And we are going to get that closed, and as it's closing, Harold, was there any last thoughts that you wanted to share before we announce the poll results?
Yeah, I do. First off, I want to thank the panel that was here today. Brent, Dean, Aaron, and Todd, thank you so much for being part of this U.S. Green Build program. It's been a joy working with Brent Susky on this and all the staff from AURI who helped out. This kind of activity is fundamentally important for agriculture to move forward and advance the commodities that we have and that can be turned into all these wonderful products. So we're just delighted to be part of this session. And again, thanks to the panel today. And also go to all the websites that are available to look at, that I have on the thing here and the call to action. We've got great resources here with USDA BioPreferred, sources at the United Soybean Board. We have information at AURI. And to learn more, of course, you can go to the US Green Build website that is also on the screen right now. So thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure today. And again, Brent, on behalf of AURI, thank you for allowing us to be part of the U.S. Green Build program.
Wonderful. Yeah, I just want to, I know that we're out of time here, but I did want to just take a second to echo Harold and say thank you to all of our presenters, Harold and the team at AURI for helping to coordinate the presentation. Karen, Brent, Todd, and Dean, great session today. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful learning more about all of these renewable materials and how they can be incorporated into the work that we're doing in our communities. I also wanted to thank our sponsors once again, Marvin and Wildan. We, again, wouldn't be able to offer this content without their support. Before you leave, I did include a program survey in the chat, so you can click on that and fill out that survey for us. It really does help us to make updates and changes to our programming moving forward. We'll also include that in our follow-up email. And I also wanted to mention that we've got a lot of great programming coming up that we hope you'll join us at, including our town hall meetings with our CEO, Mahesh Ramanajam, and our town hall technical workshops that focus on LEED content for all your LEED projects. So we will include those in the follow-up as well. And I'll leave the conference room open here for a couple more minutes, and you're welcome to stick around. I'll unmute everyone. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Dean, being you're still on,
Yeah.
what is the LEED certification credits that you normally get from using these sustainable materials?
What's that, Harold? You broke up a little bit.
Just talking about LEED credits here, Dean, how they would raise the score by using things like Brent talked about with the rejuvenants and with what Karen brought with carpets and all the rest of it.
Well, it's a big deal because when you know, the LEED covers everything from site planning all through materials, the 500 limit. So everything that's been presented today gets you there in getting your LEED points. And the beauty of it is what's starting to happen. Before there used to be a premium to make a building LEED. You paid more to have it that way. What's happening with the materials and stuff, I talked about natural occurring affordable housing. We're starting to get a point where we're starting to get natural occurring LEED building, meaning we outside the documentation phase, we're naturally getting into that realm, which is really good and which really LEED has helped sort of set the pace for. So basically, the products we had from the sealants, from the renewable, from the hemp base, from the asphalt, all those contribute to on the LEED qualifications that really are helpful. So this is what's really genius about this. You can get there just so the documentation, and it makes it a lot more feasible to have LEED accredited buildings without going to extraordinary circumstances to get there. So this is what this has been really helpful, and that's what I'm saying. I really do believe there'll be more and more LEED buildings that are going to be occurring naturally just by how the industry is moving, and the hemp and the soybean based and Cargill's project are really a big piece of that puzzle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Harold, I'll just add as well, when we're looking specifically at the way that the rating system is structured, there's a material and resources section within LEED, and there's our specific credits that we've started to look at transparency within the products that people are putting into their buildings. So similar to the transparency food labels that we see on our food boxes, we're also looking at what are these building materials made of. So when Karen was talking about identifying products that didn't have formaldehyde in them, we are asking our designers and architects to look at environmental product declarations and look at what the products are made of, so that they're more informed about that selection process. So there's some really interesting things that are happening that are continuing to transform the market, as Dean mentioned, from the LEED perspective.
Well, again, thanks everyone.
Yeah, I have just a question from somebody so for like insulation, that you have one company that uses insulation, which is mainly the fiberglass, and then it's bound with formaldehyde-based adhesive. Then you have one that's bound with a natural-based adhesive. How would the LEED differentiate between that? I mean, would you get significant credits for incorporating that?
You would get credits for using the environmentally preferred product as long as it had an environmental product declaration.
Right.
So we don't dictate what products specific project teams use on their buildings.
Sure.
We want them to be, when people are more informed, they're going to make better decisions.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thought process behind it.
Is it kind of like quantity based? So for example, the binder in insulation is 3%, some small number. Yet the emission of formaldehyde, because of even at its small concentration, could have significant impacts on health. How's that accounted? Is that accounted for, or is there a way to do that?
Yeah, so we've been talking specifically about the materials and resources credits, and that's where we're looking at the environmental product declarations, but we also have credits that are available for health product declarations.
Okay.
That's when you start to get into that chemical conversation.
Sure.
In addition to that, there's a whole other credit category that's focused on indoor environmental quality.
Yeah.
And that's where we start to look at the measurement of contaminants in indoor environments, the performance of the air. So
this is a great conversation, and I find a lot of the companies do kind of struggle with understanding how to fit into LEED. Mm-hmm. Would it ever be an option to do a webinar with bio-based manufacturers to talk to them about how bio-based fits in LEED?
I would be happy to help coordinate that. Yeah, we absolutely can. Either design a program through USGBC, or if there's a platform that any of you have that would make more sense to get your specific members or other stakeholders to the table, we could fit into that as well.
I don't know if others are interested. Harold, maybe we can talk offline, but I do think, especially there's been a lot of change with LEED, and it's always evolving, and it's just hard for the people on the front lines to speak with clarity about where they stand with LEED. So that'll be great.
I think that would be incredible, and I think we could have our staff talk about it from just the technical standpoint, what people need to know. But there are a number of manufacturers in Minnesota and across our region who are really invested in this process as well, who also can share their story and their experience with, making sure that their products have the transparency metrics in place, so that designers are going to them when they're working on their LEED projects to make sure that those are incorporated into their projects. Those are great stories that we can tell for what that process looks like.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to work on that. I think a lot of the things that were said here today, all of these innovations can certainly put somebody over the top, maybe from silver to gold and from gold to platinum on the LEED certification, just because they've done these very unique things. And that's progress.
Now, the more incremental pieces you can make, the faster you get there. You try to fight LEED in big chunks, but if you get these incremental pieces of materials, that's a big deal. Yeah, because then, like I say, then your building can almost just naturally get there without having to extraordinary to get points. And if we get to that point, then we get a lot more widespread basis of these materials, LEED credits, and so forth.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dean, I just got a question for you in the Twin Cities. Do you know how many platinum LEED buildings there would be in the Twin Cities?
There is some. The biggest resistance to LEED is the cost of verification. That most people are following the LEED guidelines. It's the developers and clients who work with don't like the cost associated with the documentation. But in terms of LEED, so we did the first LEED different land housing project in the basis. But I'd say of the Twin Cities buildings, if I listed LEED, my gut is 5%, 10% that take the time to register and become LEED certified. But the amount of developers, architects that are following the LEED guidelines is much higher. So there's been a good dissemination of the methodology, but there's more of a resistance to the associated costs of the commissioning and certification and so forth. So LEED certified is low, but I'll follow that buildings that are following LEED principles is much higher. There, I would say probably close to 50% of new structures.
Yeah, Harold, the number of platinum buildings in Twin Cities and in Minnesota in general is only in like the dozen or so.
Yeah.
Once you get past gold, because of the point jump to get to platinum, it becomes much more difficult, much more difficult. So those, if you see a LEED platinum building, that is an incredibly high performing building in all aspects of sustainability, because you can't achieve it if you are ignoring certain credit categories.
That's why if this material idea really starts to build in, it helps get you there.
Right.
By not going to such a growth.
Yeah, in fact, one of the recent LEED platinum buildings is the Land O'Lakes new headquarters building in the Twin Cities, and they would not have achieved it had they not had such an attention to the material details in that project.
Exactly.
Well, I know that we are over time and you guys are really busy, and I just want to thank you again for all of the time that you put into putting your presentations together. And, feel free to get in touch with me if you are interested in learning more about USGBC or LEED, and hopefully our paths cross again soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye now.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
Bye.